One of the reasons that I write so much about immigration and also about deportation is because, the bigger reason is because I see a lot of parallels in in the stories of slavery, the stories of family separation, um, and economic struggle, and the stories of people, especially brown people, um, who attempt to come to America for a better life and find themselves separated from their families. Um, every time I hear those stories, it hits a part of me, an ancestral trauma. But the other reason is because I have worked with a lot of the children who have family members who have been deported, and have worked with children who have been deported themselves. Um, and it is another kind of trauma, to get really close to a kid, and then, as a teacher, and then one day they're missing, and you find out that they've been deported. It's it's indescribable. It's not something you ever really expect. Um, so um, thinking about those people in my lives who have been affected by um, deportation, it means that you know I don't know if I'll ever see them again. Probably not. And the poems that I write for them are in memory of, because I don't think there'll ever be a time that I get to share these poems with them. Um, and there's a lot of poems like that in here, who, people who are missing people who have been murdered, who no longer living, that I'll never be able to share these poems with. And the other day I had an opportunity to meet with somebody who I wrote a poem about while they were in prison, and I didn't know if they were ever going to get out of prison, and they did. His name is Rontarus Washington. Look it up. It's a case in Lawrence, Kansas, a very famous case in Lawrence, Kansas, of someone who was imprisoned without being convicted, and he was in prison for 6 years, and we were trying to get him out. I didn't know if he was going to get out, and I wrote a poem about that pain of, being what it's like to have a brother that you've never met because he's in prison. And the other day I just happened to be out shopping at the exact moment that he was checking out. I had never met him before. I'd seen pictures of him before in the newspaper, and there he was, and I was like, "Yo, are you Rontarus?" He was like, "Yeah." I was like, "I wrote a poem about you," and I had just happened to just get these books in the mail, and I was like, "I wrote a poem about you." He's like, "I want to hear it." I was like, I'm gonna give it to you," and I could go in my car, took the book, and I got a chance to hand it to him, and that's like, it was beautiful, just to be able to hand that to him and be like, "This is for you," but also it's beautiful because so many people in this book will never be able to hear the poems that I wrote about them. So I want to read this poem in honor of Rontarus Washington. The name of the poem is Lawrence Summer. Rontarus Washington, I'm telling you what's up. After Pablo Neruda, I'm explaining a few things. Motherland drip on me. We live in a world where a black man gardening is a revolution, nurturing sweet potato slips, straightening black-eyed pea stalks, clipping collard green leaves, releasing butterflies and flowers, watering the placenta of his daughters beneath the plum tree is like what our ancestors died for. I'll give the 411. A black man in the suburbs of Kansas City, where the bell tower chimes every 15, the farmers' market's full to bursting. The youth here are woke. We follow trans women in marches. We sanctuary our hearts and burn ice flags, and nobody has a blood feud. Still, The hungry prison industrial complex eats homeless shelters, and police stations multiply even when a death of significance consists of a frozen college student passing out drunkenly in his car in the middle of winter. Still, a black child in this suburb 2.5 times more likely to have an out-of-school suspension. Still, my brother, Rontarus Washington, a black man in this suburb without being convicted for 6 years, has been awaiting that Rona in a black prison of black. 6 years waiting to hug his mama. 6 years looking for a real meal. 6 years sleeping in concrete. 6 years blinded by lights. 6 years bleeding and sweating for a system. 6 years. So if you're wondering why I don't tell you how to make your sweet potato pie glisten like grandmommies, or how to feel the warmth of your ancestors, or my favorite river walk in Lawrence, come and see the children of the enslaved. Come and see the children of the enslaved. Come and see the children of the enslaved. Beautiful Ashe.